Now, when it comes to money, retirement planning is one of the most difficult things for people to grasp. And this is through no fault of their own. People often have no problem with their day-to-day expenses, getting their salary in each month and working out how to budget for the month ahead. Equally, things like saving for a certain item, such as a new car or a house deposit, people can really quantify those amounts. And therefore, it's easier for people to grasp the concept as to how much money they need. But when it comes to retirement planning, most people are saving into a pension pot each month, but have no idea if they're actually on track to retire when they want to, with the income they want. And that's partly because when you're building up a pension pot, it can be very difficult to actually know how much income that can actually give you in retirement, and therefore if you're actually on track to retire with the income you want. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how much income you need when it comes to retirement, the sort of pension pot size you need to produce that level of income when it comes to retirement, and therefore the pension pot size you need at each age to reach that point, from age 35 through to age 65. But if you're new here, my name's Ben, and I've worked in financial advice for the last 10 years, and my aim is to help as many people as possible gain more clarity around their finances and specifically their retirement plan. Okay, so first let's look at how much income you need when it comes to retirement, because I think a lot of people often overestimate how much they actually need. So based on government data, you can see that the amount you need is dependent on your income before you retire. And this shows you the percentage of your pre-retirement income which you'll need as an income in retirement. So you can see that dependent on your pre-retirement earnings, that percentage is going to be anywhere from 80% to 50%. And you can see that the more you earn pre-retirement, the less you need as a percentage when it comes to retirement. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be focusing on people earning between £29,000 and £67,000 pre-retirement to give you an idea of how much income you'll need in retirement and therefore the pension pot size you want to aim for at each age. So based on this range of salaries, you're going to roughly need £27,000 as an income in retirement to fund your expenses. Okay, so before moving on to the pension pot size you'll need to fund this lifestyle in retirement, we first need to look at the state pension. Now, the state pension currently is payable from age 67 for anyone aged between 49 and 65 as of June 2026. And currently the full state pension is just over £12,500 a year, and this is increased each year in line with inflation. So effectively, that state pension is giving you an inflation-linked income for the rest of your life. Now, one of the big concerns people have is that the state pension may not exist in future years, or it may be means tested. So when I'm going through the pension pot sizes required to fund your lifestyle in retirement, I'll be doing this both with and without a state pension, so you can see how much of an impact this would have on the pension pot size required. So before we go through the pension pot size figures, let's just run some basic assumptions. So I've assumed the pension pot is going to grow by about 4% a year. I've assumed you're contributing £300 a month into your pension, and you can see there the net spend is £23,000 a year. So the £27,000 I spoke about previously was your gross income required, and that translates to a net income of £23,000. So that's the figure we'll be using for the purposes of the calculations. So you can see that based on retiring at age 65, if you have got the full state pension, your requirement for a pension pot size is about £250,000. However, you can see that if you don't have any state pension, so if that gets removed or means tested, your pension pot size required is £460,000. So this really does show the powerful impact that having a full state pension can have, because without the state pension, your required pension pot size is nearly double the amount. So this is why it's really important to check your state pension. And you can actually access the online portal to obtain a state pension forecast. And I'll leave a link to this in the description below. And this is really what I would say is the starting point when it comes to retirement planning, is actually looking what that state pension income is going to be, because for most people that is going to form the foundation of their retirement income. So those are the pension pot sizes required to retire at age 65. So now let's look at what pension pot size you want to be aiming for depending on your current age. So you can see I've laid out on screen here a table and a graph showing the pension pot size you want to be aiming for at each age to then be on track to achieve that £250,000 or the £460,000 pension pot at age 65. And you can see that I've put here the amounts with the state pension and without. Now, As I said earlier, the reason I've done this is because there is a lot of concern around the future of the state pension and if it's going to exist in 10 or 15 years' time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and comment on whether I think this is going to exist in the future or not, because quite frankly, when it comes to financial planning, we focus on the here and now and legislation as it is today. So what I would say is you probably want to be aiming closer to the figures without the state pension, because this gives you that security and peace of mind of knowing even if the state pension doesn't exist in the future, you're still on track to actually have that level of income when it comes to retirement. Now, obviously, if the state pension does exist when you reach state pension age, that's going to be a bonus on top of the income you're going to get from your own pension. But I would say that you want to be focusing more on that without state pension figure or closer to that figure rather than the with state pension figure. Now, if you're looking at these figures and thinking, I'm quite far behind from what you're saying I should be at this point. And the first thing I would say is if you are behind, please don't worry. And a big reason for that is because as your income increases over time, the likelihood is that your pension contributions will increase also. And the big reason for that is because for most people, their pension contributions are based on a percentage of their income if they're paying into a workplace pension. So let's say, for example, you're age 40 now and you're earning £40,000. If you get a pay rise in a couple of years to, let's say, £45,000, your pension contributions will increase. So although I've based this on you paying in £300 a month until retirement, if you do get that pay rise, then your pension contributions will increase. And therefore, you're going to have more going into your pension to then bridge that gap between where you are now and where you need to be at each age. The second thing I would say is you want to be looking into employer matched contributions. And simply what this means is that often you'll see that your employer will increase their pension contribution if you pay in more. So let's say, for example, you're currently paying in 5% of your salary and your employer is paying in 3%. So what you want to be looking into is, let's say you increase your contribution from 5% to 10%. Your employer may also match that extra 5%. So that would bring their contribution from 3% to 8%. Now that may not sound like a big increase, but over the space of 20 or 30 years, that can add a huge amount more into your pension pot. And the final thing is to check your state pension forecast. So as I mentioned earlier, for most people, the state pension is going to form the foundation of their income in retirement. So it's really important you understand what your state pension entitlement is likely to be when it comes to state pension age. Now, all of these figures have been based on the assumption that you're going to need £27,000 a year as an income in retirement. And as I said, that's based on the government research. But let's say you're planning to spend a bit more or a bit less than that when it comes to retirement. For you, what I would suggest doing is looking at my free retirement calculator, and you can find a link to this in the description below. And what it allows you to do is you can go on and enter your own details, such as how much you want to be spending when it comes to retirement, what your current age is, how much you're paying into your pension, and the pension pot size you've got built up already. And then that will show you if you are on track to retire with that level of income at your desired retirement age. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video and got some value from it. If you did, please do consider subscribing to the channel for more videos just like this in the future. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video.